let's have a conversation.
I think I actually heard Jay-Z say it best, where he says, when you go and speak to someone about, your endeavors, what you're working on, because they don't understand it, they're going to project their fear onto you. That's them being fearful of what you are about to do, because to them, it's a risk that they would never, ever take in their life. So here you are asking someone who has no concept about what you're doing, never actually took a risk in their life, never even walked the journey that you're on for a day. They have no idea how you got to where you are or what you've been through to get to where you are. Their immediate response is going to be based on what they would do. You can't ask somebody what they would do about your life. You have two different lives. So that's my short answer.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. I hope everybody is doing well. This morning, I went down a rabbit hole of looking at a lot of different videos of a lot of different people who had stories about leaving toxic work situations, what it took for them, and the things that they learned. Now, I have one to talk about that happened in 2020, which was probably, I don't know if I would call it the most toxic job I've ever faced, but I would say that it was definitely a toxic job. And it was one that was very hard to leave. And I'm going to explain this as best as I can from A to Z. Good morning, Lisa. So this is a job that I had been with for a while. To break down a little of my story for people who don't know my story, because I know some people do and some people don't. There is a time period in 2011, 2012, when a job that I was in at that time pushed me to a mental health breakdown. And as soon as they knew that I was having some kind of mental health difficulties, they fired me, but they did it in a way that was around the law in a way. What I mean by that is they couldn't outright be like, well, Mark is fired because he has an overwhelming amount of anxiety and clinical depression and panic attacks. They can't say that because even back then, that would not have been a legal thing to do. So what they did instead was they started to look for other people to replace me. They hired somebody while I was still there. And then they had this person work alongside me. They had me train this person. And I asked my manager flat out, I said, is this person replacing me? Yes or no? The manager lied right to my face and told me, no, they are not replacing you. You do such excellent work. So all we're doing is we're bringing in this person who's going to be working the shift directly after your shift, because my shift was, I think they consider this, second shift? Whatever the shift is considered. It was 5 o'clock in the morning until 1:30. So they didn't have anyone working my position after that or before that. So they claimed that they were having that person come in at 1:30 after my shift ends and work till 9, I think it was. 1:30 to 9 or 10, something like that. So I was skeptical, but I said, well, I actually asked them, so they wouldn't lie to me if I asked them flat out, right? Wrong. I trained them for 2 or 3 weeks, and then the next day, I remember the last day that I trained them, which was a Friday. I said, oh, good luck on Monday when you start your own shift. And they were like, oh, thank you so much. Thanks for all your help that you've given me. That was that, or so I thought. I came into work on Monday, and that person was still there at 5 a.m. at my time. And I was looking at them and I'm like, oh, what are you doing here? They're looking at me kind of like, what am I doing there? So, long story short, at the end of the day, I got a call. We both worked together. And then I got a call, and the call was stating that unfortunately I'm being let go of, and that this is because they could not afford to pay two people to do the same position. Slick, right? Because they already had somebody who was doing the position, which is me. And instead of saying they didn't have another reason to fire me aside from my mental health issues, but they skirted around the law in that way, which has forever made me skeptical at any job of disclosing about mental illness. But that's another story for another day. That was just to give y'all a background. So I got into this other job. I didn't work for a while from the time that I left that job, or the time I was let go of from that job, up until a certain time. And I went to, I guess you could call it, mental health rehab, where I went to different groups. I was seeing a psychologist, I was seeing a psychiatrist. I was just doing a lot of work on myself. And I didn't think I was going to work again in life, as a matter of fact. I applied for Social Security disability benefits, and I eventually got them. And I was living that way. And then over time, when I started to feel better, when I started to feel a little bit more healed, I was able to take on part-time work, because anyone who knows anything about SSD benefits, it's not the same thing as SSI. With SSI, you can't work at all, but with SSD, you can work up to a certain limit. I guess their thing is the money that you make can't be a substantial gain, and you can't hold a certain amount in your bank account. So fast forward to when I got to a point where I felt like maybe I can work again. I'm starting to feel better enough that it's possible that I could take on a full-time job. I was scared to do it, but I felt the fear and I did it anyways. And I applied for a job in the mental health field. I actually became a peer counselor, because before then I was not in the mental health field. I graduated from school with a bachelor's of business administration, which has nothing to do with mental health. I wanted to do something related to business, but then due to what I had been through, the option of becoming a counselor kind of presented itself, and I took it on. So I got into the job. I was working full-time now as a peer counselor. And at first, I was like, this is pretty great, because living off of disability benefits was hard for me. I know that some people are thinking, oh, for everybody, that it's like, oh, free money. You don't have to worry about where you're going to get your next meal, blah, blah, blah. You're getting food stamps. For me, it was tough, because I always saw myself as being a contributing member of society to that point. And I had never really received help for anything. And now all of a sudden, I'm not working and I'm just home, getting my paycheck every month, getting my food stamps every month. So it took away a sense of value I had in myself. So I started the job. The job was extremely low paying. And I get it. I was new in the field. My negotiating skills were not so good. That combination of things, I got a lowball offer for the job. I accepted it. So I'm in the job. The job says that I have to maintain a certain caseload. I have to write a certain amount of notes. I have to make a certain amount of calls. There's different job requirements of what I have to do. So I started on the job. and I'm doing pretty good with what I'm being told to do. But then as time goes on, these requirements are increasing. Okay, let me just make up some figures. You have to see 10 people a day. And that means 10 different people, 10 sets of notes for the day. And then in a couple of months, it's like, okay, now the requirement is that you see 12 people a day. Okay. And then a couple of months later, the requirement is that you see 15 people a day. And now this has to be added to the care plan. This has to be added on to your notes. And now, in addition to calling them, you have to do this, 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 and this. And things are just being added and added over time. But the salary is not going up. That's the whole interesting thing. The requirements keep going up. The job responsibilities keep going up. Things that were not on the job description keep going up, but the salary is not going up. In this particular place, I actually remember I was working at a location that was about 10 minutes drive from my house. There was another location that was about an hour's drive from my house. The person, I signed up for the location that was close by me, obviously. And the person at the location that was far from me quit the job on the spot. And I got a call one day. Hey, Mark, this person at this location quit unexpectedly. So could you do us a temporary favor and cover that location for 1 month while we hire somebody else? Good morning, Charm Life. Love when that happens. More work, same pay. New title, even sometimes same pay. Yeah. So I was still pretty to the job at that point. I was only a few months in. So I was thinking two things. I was like, number one, they're going to value the fact that I'm covering their behind, because they would not have had somebody in my role at that other location. And number two, I was also thinking, like, I'm pretty new, so if I say no, this probably just wouldn't be a good look on me in general. So, okay, they said 2 days a week, you go to the other location, and the other 3 weeks, the other 3 days of the week, you're in your regular location. So now my schedule is wild, because Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm going to my original location. Tuesday, Thursday, I'm going to this other location. So each day I'm in a different spot, but I didn't sign up for that. That was just me covering because somebody quit at that other spot on the spot and didn't give them any notice. So I go to that location. It's a lot harder over there than it was in my original spot. The people that I was seeing was a whole different population, a whole different type of people. The amount that I had to see was much higher because there was just much more people at that clinic than the one that I was working for originally. But I did it faithfully for a month. I'm here, I'm there. I'm here, I'm there. I'm meeting the requirements at both clinics. A month goes by, and I talk to my boss, and I'm like, hey, you told me that you need me to cover you for a month. It has now been a month. So what's going on with the hiring process? They told me, oh, well, we are adamantly looking for somebody, but it's hard to find a peer specialist. And it's hard to find somebody who meets the requirements. We've had a few people that we thought were going to be able to fill the spot, but for whatever reason, background check, or they withdrew, things fell through. So you're just going to have to hang in there a little longer. So I said, okay. I hung in there another month. So now we're 2 months of doing these two jobs. It's almost like having two separate jobs because it couldn't be more different what I was doing at each spot. I was going into 2 sets of meetings. I had 2 different sets of coworkers. It was just a mess. It was just a mess. So, because imagine, well, some people do this, but what I'm trying to say is if you did not sign up to do that, it's kind of a bait and switch in a way. So 2 months went by. I had that conversation again, but instead I changed the way that I had the conversation. I said, hey, I've been working at both of these locations for 2 months. I have been covering for you guys. I've maintained my caseload. I've been doing all my notes. I've been attending all the required meetings. I've been doing everything I'm supposed to be doing here. So if you guys don't have any immediate plans to have somebody to take back over this spot that I was not originally signed up for, I would like an increase in pay for the extra work that I'm doing, and also a travel budget, because it costs me a lot more in time and gas money to be able to go here versus going to the local spot that's near my house. Now they changed the tune. He tells me, well, I'm just reminding you that flexibility is one of the core values of this company. So this is something that you signed up for and knew when you got here that this was going to be an ever-changing field and there was going to be a lot of change and you were going to have to be flexible. So thank you for your flexibility, and we will continue to search for somebody diligently to fill that spot. And it became obvious to me after a while that they were not trying to look for somebody to fill the spot, because why go around and look for someone to fill the spot when you can get 2 for the price of 1? Me being in those 2 locations was essentially like having a part-time worker at that location and a part-time worker at my original location. One guy who they can just pile on a huge caseload on in each spot and not have to hire a second person. And then they know Mark is reliable. Mark shows up to the job on time. He's a professional. Whenever we ask him to do something, he does it. So let's just take advantage of that for as long as we can. And that's what was happening. They took advantage of that for as long as they can. Now, there were other things that made the job toxic as well. This is kind of an impromptu live, so it's not like I have everything written out or anything like I would normally do. Hi, Van Hoot. Then management should be equally flexible. Yeah, on that part. Like compensating you and you're doing them a freaking favor. One of the things that they like to do was to make the environment competitive. And I'm not saying that competition is always a bad thing. Like even a company, if you're a certain type of company, you're going to look at the other people who are setting the standards in your field and think about what you can do to make yourself competitive, to give yourself a competitive advantage against those other companies. But the type of competitiveness that I'm talking about is like building a competitiveness with your coworkers by telling you, oh, I don't know why you're not able to accomplish this because Jane is accomplishing this. Jack is accomplishing that. I had a job in a factory at one time where our production was actually it was a recycling factory, and our production was the amount of pounds that we were able to sift through per day, because people would donate their old electronics for them to be recycled, and we would get these big boxes of stuff, and then we would have to sort everything out. The plastic goes in the plastic bin, and the wires go here, the metal goes here, and each box that we sorted through had a number of pounds on it. and we had a certain number of pounds that we had to sift through per day. And what they would do in that field, once a week, they would actually print out a list that they would put on the big cork board, where it would show who did the most work for the day, and it would show who did the most work for the week, and it would show who does the most on average for the month. And we would all stand over there by that board every Monday, and the boss would be like, Mike sifted through 12,000 pounds on average last week, and Mark only did 4,000, and the rest of you did around 6 or 7. So why is Mike doing 12 and the rest of you are doing like 4, 5, 6? Can somebody give me a reason for that? And really, that was just to embarrass the people who were not producing the 12, and to make everybody say, oh, this 12,000 is going to be my new standard. It was fear-based, not reward-based. And the reason I even mentioned that is because really the same thing was happening in the counseling field. Oh, this person maintains this many cases per day and per week, and this person does this many cases per day and per week. So why can't you? How come you're saying that for you, you need this time in between sessions to decompress from these things that the clients are telling you, but this other person can go right in from session to session to session to session to session without any issues? But maybe it's not. There's so many other factors. Maybe it's not that that person is more capable. Maybe it's that person is getting a higher salary, or maybe it's because that person has a tremendous need at home. That money is feeding their family at home, and therefore they're like, I can't even see myself standing up for this, or trying to tell anybody that my mental health is being sacrificed because of the way that I'm doing this job. I've been there myself. I was in this position at this same job that I'm talking about, where I was assisting in paying for expenses relating to caretaking for my dad, who was sick. And I was like, if I ever left this job, now it would put a huge strain on my family's ability to take care of my dad in these certain areas. So I wouldn't even dare have those conversations about fairness and equity or anything like that. But I want to tell you how I have conquered the fear of leaving toxic jobs. And this is not really going to be a one-off video. I'm probably going to make several videos about this that go in chronological order. This is just a short, generic one, just to get a few of these thoughts out there. I have a similar issue now. They're trying to up my caseload with transfers and using the higher caseload of others as an excuse. Yeah, the comparison game. The comparison game. Morning, Lisa. You have to be a mod. Lisa's not a mod in this. I can't see, but I thought Lisa was a mod. Lisa, do you not have a wrench over here? Yeah, but what I was trying to say is how I got over my fear of leaving a toxic job. Fast forward to 2020. Fast forward to 2020. The pandemic happens. Before the pandemic, I was in a pretty good situation at work. I liked my job. I was working a couple of jobs, actually, and I liked both of them. And everything was good. And then all of a sudden, they make an announcement in the building that because of coronavirus, which is what it was called at that time, The building is going to be shut down 2 weeks for a deep cleaning, and then we're going to come back. They closed the building down. I didn't mind having 2 weeks off, even if they were unpaid for me, I didn't even care. I was like, I can use this 2 weeks and just find things to do because I'm not somebody who has trouble finding things to do without a 9 to 5 job at all. That is not an issue for me. But then after the 2 weeks, we got another call. We got a call at home saying, oh, this thing has escalated and we are now shut down indefinitely. So one of my jobs I was able to keep part-time, and the other job I was furloughed. So the part-time job, I told them I can't survive on this money anymore because of being furloughed from the other job, because now this is my sole source of income. I could basically tolerate not being paid what I was supposed to be paid. But now, because I only have the one job and it's you guys, I can't deal with it anymore. I have to get more money. So initially they were like, sorry, we don't have the budget. If you work hard for another 6 months, then we can revisit the conversation. And I'm like, I've been here at that point 5 years. So what are you talking about another 6 months? I've been there 5 years already. And I've received one raise in 5 years. I try to make as many as I can. I'm also a stay-at-home mom right now. Unemployed, so I have a pretty flexible schedule. I like to support people with big goals. I caught the Mark bug from day one for sure. Charmed, that's so irritating. Yeah, so I had been there 5 years and they were talking about work hard for another 6 months. So I just realized at that point, they're stalling. They are stalling. They just want me to work there for another 6 months and keep doing what I'm doing without complaining. So I was like, I'm done with the company. I am totally done. I started to go out and put my resume out there to other places. I got called for 3 job interviews. All 3 jobs that I applied for offered me a position. And this is all within a span of a month after I had this conversation with my job. So I sat down, I thought about all 3 of the different jobs. I picked the one that was the best one for me. And then I was like, I'm giving them my 2 weeks. It wasn't difficult for me. I gave them the 2 weeks. And no lie, within 1 hour after I delivered my letter of resignation to HR, somebody from a very high administrative position gave me a call to ask me why I was leaving. This same administrator who called me never had anything positive to say about me. You're not seeing enough cases. You don't have enough cases. You're not doing a good enough job of this. You're not doing a good enough job of this. You're bad at this. You're bad at that. You're bad at this. You're bad at that. Blah, blah, blah. Nothing positive to say about me ever. There was never you're doing a good job, well done. There was never any kind of reward for anything I was doing. It was like your reward for your work is that you get the paycheck that you're supposed to get. I'm like, that's not really a reward. I'm doing this work and it's producing you this money, and I'm getting my small cut of this money from the work that I'm doing. That's not a reward. So when I got the call from her, I was pretty surprised because I thought she would be like, bye, you suck like I always tell you, so bye. It was frantic sounding. She was like, bye, Charm Life. She was like, Mark, I heard that you're leaving. Why? Oh my goodness. You've done such excellent work here. Your colleagues all love you here, and the clients really love you here, and you're irreplaceable, blah blah blah. What can we do to make you stay? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, is this a real call? Am I being punked or something? Because this person has never said these things about me ever. But in the 11th hour, when I'm about to leave, I get the most compliments I've gotten in 5 years. Sometimes it's better working for a smaller business than a huge corporation. Smaller businesses appreciate their employees way more. Yeah, that can be true. So I did not go for those other jobs with the intent of renegotiating with my company. I went to those other jobs because I was planning to leave. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So I was a little bit on the disrespectful side, really, when I don't know if I can call it disrespectful. I'll just say I was very forthcoming when she asked me that question of what can we do to make you stay and why are you leaving? And I told her flat out, I was like, y'all don't respect me. You don't talk to me or treat me the way that I deserve to be treated. You're disrespectful. I said, the company I'm leaving you for pays way better than you. I just unleashed because, like I said, I was not planning to go back. And I honestly thought, based on how our interactions had gone before and the way that I had never said things like this to her, that the conversation was going to be over and she was going to say, how dare you, and hang up the phone. It's like she ignored all the other stuff and said, oh, well, the money part. Well, how much money do you want? So I said, I'm busy right now. So if you really want to have this conversation, what we can do is give me some time and I'm going to get off the phone and then I'm going to draft up an email for you, send you what I need, and then we can discuss that further. If that happens to meet your needs, we can figure out what's going to happen from there. She said, okay, all right, sounds good. So she gets out the phone. I consulted a few people who know about these kind of business negotiations. I thought so too, Prince, but then sometimes I expect you to treat them like family while they treat you like an employee, and they have favorites for sure. You just have to keep trying until you find the right fit or make the right fit. That's my third option. You have to keep trying until you find the right fit or until you create the right fit. Like a relationship, the one you can respectfully deal with until you find the next job or figure out how to work for yourself. I know there are more opportunities to make more money in a bigger corporation, which I just left a bigger corporation. So don't I know it? They treat you like numbers at those places. Yeah, so onto this negotiation. The job that I was at was underpaying me a lot. The job that I was going to, I still considered it underpaying me, but they were paying me about about $8,000 more annually than the job that I was leaving. So it was, it was a fairly significant upgrade. So when I went to the drawing board, my friend told me to ask my company for $5,000 more than what I wanted them to give me. So I added another $8,000 onto what I told them the offer was from the other company. It's like, this one, they offered 16,000 more than what you guys are giving me. Mind you, I had asked them for a raise not that long before, and the raise that I was asking them for was $3,000-$4,000 a year extra. And now I'm telling them, oh, the other company's paying me $16,000 more than y'all, and you got to match that. Otherwise, I'm going to leave. And again, I assumed that's a huge raise. So I just assumed there's no way they would probably laugh at that because they told me they didn't have money to give me the 4. So where are they going to find money to give me the 16? After I send that email, another hour or two goes by, I get a call. Hey, Mark, I just talked to the CEO. Wonderful news. We are going to match your job offer. And you would think that I would just be happy about that because, hey, now all of a sudden I'm getting this huge salary. Well, not huge salary, but I'm getting a huge increase in salary is what I'm trying to say. But then I thought to myself, I asked them for 4,000 more a few weeks ago. They said they don't have the budget. And then I tell them I'm leaving for another company and they're paying 16,000 more than y'all. And then they found the budget in an hour. So really what I thought to myself was they knew that they were grossly underpaying me this whole time. All the stuff they said about me being a terrible employee and all of that is obviously not true because you're not gonna pay somebody that much money to stay if they suck as an employee, like you keep telling them. And I ended up staying with that same company for another, let's see, from about April to December. What was that, about 9 months? I ended up staying with that company for another 9 months. They treated me so disrespectfully, even more so than before, after they gave me the raise. Oh, now your caseload is tripled. We pay you the most that we've ever paid anybody at this position. Okay, now you do, but what about the 5 years that you were paying me slightly above minimum wage with the type of qualifications that I have? So yeah, now you're giving me that. But before you were giving me the least and having me do the most, while I saw all these other people come and go from the company, revolving door. Somebody's here today, gone tomorrow, and I'm still here consistently as one of the longest standing employees in my spot. So I remember when I got offered a position to go to another company after them, the second time I didn't look back. I guess it's cheaper to keep someone than to replace. Well, something that I have learned too, it's not just about it being cheaper to keep you than to replace. It's that if they know that you are actually an excellent employee, getting somebody new is a gamble. So let's say they give me $60,000 and they can get somebody fresh out of school for like 40,000. Yeah, it's less salary. They gave me 60 and they're giving the college graduate 40. But the college graduate is such a variable because you don't know their work ethic. This could be one of their first jobs after school. So this could be their starter job where their plan is to stay there for a year and leave. Meanwhile, I'm in my 30s. I've been there for a while. So obviously I'm looking for somewhere that I can stay and retire. I mean, I'm not really, but in theory, for them, I'm somebody who could potentially want to stay there and retire there. I've put in some time there. So they could hire this $40,000 employee. They could have a terrible work ethic. They could be bad with punctuality. They could be bad with clients. They could leave in 6 months. And then in 6 months, you got to get somebody else. So you get all these bargain bin people and hope that you find this gem, this diamond in the rough. but it's much harder to find that person than to keep the person that you have, that you know what they bring to the table. But the funny thing that I've learned, Prince, is that for-profit corporations have no problem doing that. The non-profit organization is the one that will fight and throw more money at you to keep you. The for-profit organization is just like, we have so much money that we're willing to pay 20 people until we find another one of you. They are cutthroat in those environments. Cutthroat. And I can't see myself really working for another one, but you never know. I can't ever say never, but yeah, I just know that I have not had good dealings for real. So after that whole ordeal with that place, to tie this all up, it can be very hard to leave your whole livelihood on the table, especially if you don't have something else to replace it with. But I have been in a spot where I worked so hard for a company to the point that it broke down my mental health to where I needed years of therapy and recovery to recover from the job. And the job left me out in the cold. So my mentality about life is that you can always make back money. As much as people act like, oh, the benefits and the salary and the security of the money in the bank every week or 2 weeks. Yes, all of that stuff is like a nice security blanket. But you can always make back money. If you're very unhappy, if you're being verbally abused, if you're being mistreated in said place of employment, to where now you get out of work and your whole out of work time is dedicated towards recovering enough for the job to be able to do the job again the next day, you're not in a good situation, and you need to figure out a way to leave immediately. And I'm not saying to quit immediately, because not everybody's in a spot to be able to do that, but figure out a plan B and figure it out as soon as you can. The money can be made back. The time that you waste in that type of situation cannot be made back. Once time goes, it's gone forever. You can't buy it back. You can't get it back. There's no time machine that I know of that can put you back. The time is what matters the most. So with that in mind, that was a general idea of how I conquered my fear of leaving a toxic job. But I plan to make it into a series and kind of talk about each step one by one. Instead of making it generic like this, I want to make it into an entire series, because I think that this topic has a lot of depth to it. These higher ups, businessmen, women are so wealthy, but they're the people with the least of morals, for sure. I don't think I could ever be wealthy like them because I care about people's feelings. Yeah, that's the thing. Like I said, I got a business management degree. I mean, it was only a bachelor's degree, but there's plenty of CEOs that only have bachelor's degrees. And in fact, there's CEOs that don't even have degrees. But I say all that to say, I wouldn't really have what it takes to run a company in a way that a lot of these corporate moguls do. The cutting corners, the shady business tactics, like that's just not a life that I can live with. The sad part is I have gone above and beyond to make reports. I'm not going to say nothing has come out of them. I'm just going to say very minimal that I have seen has come out of them. I've made reports while in the job. I've made reports to the EOC. I've made reports to the Department of Labor. And some of these people are still living and thriving. Not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with making reports, but man, it can be hard to see results from those reports. Maybe it would make a difference if there was a lot of people doing it. I have that same degree. The wealthy people are extremely shading. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night knowing I'm stepping on people's toes. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. But anyways, that's the end of my topic for now, because this is a to be continued topic. And I want to thank everyone for joining me. If you have not done so yet, please like, comment, and subscribe and hit the notification bell. And also, I am a peer counselor. If you didn't know, I now offer my own peer coaching sessions for anyone who wants assistance with things like reducing anxiety and depression, and finding motivation and purpose. I have been posting a lot of different videos, but if you want personal one-on-one work, my contact information is around. I'll keep posting it up. And aside from that, I hope everyone has a great day, and we'll talk again soon.